Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this replay, we appreciate you checking out the replay. Let us know if you are tuning in afterwards. And then, suppose if no one's in live, and I say, hey, let us know if you're live when you're live. You won't exactly be able to do that. So, let me pull this up real quick. Turn the volume down. So, today we're talking about stress. It's a big one, and it seems like it's kind of always there in one way or another. So I thought, why not address this issue? We could talk about it. We could just have an open conversation of what has helped in the past, what's helped you guys, and then we can talk about some of my tips and suggestions on how to manage your stress levels, because it's a big one. It's a big one. Morning, Stephanie. I went a little bit later this morning, not because I was running behind. But because excuse me, but because it seems like more people were showing up around 7:30 than 7:15. So I was like, wow, why don't I try 7:15? Morning, Melissa. So at any rate, it's super important to reduce our stress levels. As most of us know, I feel like the biggest challenge is just because we know we should manage our stress levels doesn't mean that we know how. So it's important to talk about that how. So we're going to talk about that this morning. I lost my count. There it is. Good morning to you, Stephanie. I hope you're having a good day. I feel like this week went by fast. Did this week go by fast? Maybe because last week was a painful week. I think last week was a tough week for a lot of people. So last week felt like a month, and then this week's already over, and I'm like, I had to check my calendar 3 times, and I'm like, is it really Friday? So what I'm gonna do is at the top of the hour, I'm gonna do a giveaway. We're gonna give away a 200-gram bag of Bath Flakes. So to everyone that tags someone, I just thought, why not talk about giving away stuff? We give away stuff in our private groups, but I was like, why not give away something to you guys too? So if you tag someone in the comments, I will enter your name into a draw, and I'll put it in my fancy recording system. And at the top of the hour, I know some people can't stick around for the whole show, but if you want to tag someone, then we'll put your name into the draw and we'll give that away today. So let us know in the comments how you're doing. I know it's in Alberta where a lot of our viewers are watching from. It snowed, which I know it plays with your emotions. I know what it's like. You're all excited. Spring is here. The weather is getting nicer. And then the snow hits it again. And you're like, ugh. But I mean, we should expect it. But even though that we should expect it, you still can't help with your emotions. Like your emotions are, like you're excited. You can't help be excited sometimes. And then you're disappointed. You can't help that. Morning, Ann. Thanks for the tag, Stephanie. So yeah, it's so difficult to manage your. You know what? It's like it's almost like managing expectations. Managing expectations are pretty difficult at times. That's important because we expect the summer to the weather to be nice. So you expect to wake up and maybe the birds are chirping. Maybe it's going to be a nice day, and then it snows. Oh my gosh, Stephanie says it's snowing as we speak. Wow, that's a tough one. It's so disheartening when you have get through like a long winter and then you're excited for. Let me know where you guys. I know there's people coming in and out. Morning, Benny. Let me know where you guys are watching from, even if you're only staying in for a short time. It's always interesting to know where people are viewing from, but mostly in Alberta right now, Canada. We have some people from the U.S. as well, and is in California as well. But yeah, in Alberta, for example, you know it's coming. You know, like the weather starts to get nice, and then and then what's the date today? It's March, and it's April and then May. Like we have a May long weekend, and most people know it snows May long weekend. So, I mean, that's Canada. Like it's Alberta. It's like it's really tough. The weather is. It's not like LA, that's for sure. Okay, let me share some of my stress tips for you. And this is something that we talk about often. I used to try to do everything stress detox. Everything, like all my blog posts or videos, was all stress detox for maybe a year or two. It was just, I don't know, maybe I'm not sure why I kind of got away from that. Stress is something that we still focus on. It's just not the only thing. I thought that narrowed our. Everyone's like niche down, and I'm like, okay. So I tried to get a very small niche, and I felt like I was limiting myself. At any rate, morning, Julia, and Linda's in here too. Awesome, thank you guys for jumping in. I did mention that if you tag someone, I will give away a 200-gram bag of flakes at the top of the hour. So just tag someone that you think might be interested in the show. This isn't a private group. This is a public group, so you can tag anyone. In our private groups, you can only tag people that are in the group. Otherwise, they just won't see the tag. So if you guys want to tag someone that might be interested in learning about stress, that would be fantastic. So I guess when it comes to reducing stress, it's first of all, it's worth noting that we don't have anything to, like, there's no system in our body. Like, all of our organs do something. Like, our body is designed. It's so incredible how our body was designed. One of my favorite things about the body and how it's designed is how our body's a giant defense mechanism. So when you're doing like weights, let's say you're doing curls, for example, so your body puts a certain amount of stress on your biceps as you curl to help them grow back bigger next time. So if you put that same amount of stress on it, it'll be able to handle that same movement and motion. Of course, many of us may know that you always want to change up your workouts, and it's called muscle confusion. So your body doesn't adapt and change, which is called a plateau in the fitness world, and you stop seeing results. Which is why we change our workouts up every time. They're always a different order, or a different set, or a different exercise. And so because of that, we won't keep wanting to continue to change the different stresses we're putting in our body in a good way. So you could argue that you're putting stress on your heart and lungs, for example, when you're working out, but that's a good stress. This stress that we're talking about today isn't necessarily, well, certainly isn't good stress. Okay, so the defense mechanism of the body is, when you work out your heart and lungs, for example, they get stronger. For example, they are able to take on more stress, and they are able to make your body healthier for a number of different reasons. But when we look at the different organs or different functions of our body, we don't have an actual pump. It's like our lymph nodes. Our lymph nodes don't actually have a pump to help us like detox out of our body. We have to do things like exercise, or like I've read those vibration machines work really well for that. Or bouncing on a trampoline, like that would help clear out your lymph nodes, for example. And what's interesting is your lymph nodes are in your brain, and when you sleep, those lymph nodes are detoxed through your sleep. So that's pretty interesting too, at least for me. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to stress, is that our body, there's nothing in our body, there's no organ or there's no function that will naturally reduce stress. Like when we're breathing, you don't consciously breathe. You're not like, okay, don't forget to breathe. You may forget to take deep breaths, especially when you're stressed out. But there's nothing that says that in your brain you have to continue to breathe. It's a natural function. So when it comes to stress in our body, we don't have any natural function. We don't have any organ that's like, okay, that continues to pump or continues to work to reduce stress. So the problem is that we continue to raise our stress levels, and then we get stressed out, and then we lose our mind. And then all kinds of crazy things happen to our bodies while we're stressed out, and we don't do anything to reduce that stress. So that's the very basics of what I want to talk about this morning. And I'll get into that more here in a second. Okay, if you guys have any questions with that, as I'm going through some of these suggestions, let me know. And okay, so that's the very basics of understanding that there's no real function that will reduce stress in our body. So we have to take action. We continually get stressed out. So if you look at, I like to look at a cup, for example. That's why I went like this. I like to look at a cup, for example, and like we have a stress limit. Like you have, let's get a true form cup. You have a limit to your stress levels. So let's say you are late, you wake up late, so your stress levels increase, and then you're late for work, and then something happens with the kids, and something happens with the pets, and then something happens with your coworkers. So our cups are overflowing with stress, and there's nothing to reduce the level of stress in our cup unless we take action, unless we do something about that. So it's important to understand that you have to take action towards reducing stress. And for me, I honestly feel on a deeper level, the internal health issues that we deal with because of our stress levels sooner or later show up on the outside of our body, which is where injuries come from, which is where major disease comes from, chronic pain, inflammation. Don't get me wrong, we do talk about exercise, we talk about food, ingredients, oils, rancid oils. Those all play an important factor in our stress levels as well, or in our health levels or inflammation levels. But when it comes to our stress levels, those all play important factors, especially that stress that continually builds up, and it builds up and it builds up, and then it has nowhere. There's no release valve. You can't open a tube in your body that's like reduce stress. It doesn't work like that. We have to take action to do things to reduce stress, and in most cases we don't. That's why we deal with those chronic issues that we continually are trying to work through. I hear, like, you see people on social media, they're often like, I'm so tired of these headaches, I'm so tired of feeling horrible. But then you look at different ways people live, your lifestyle, and then you say, okay, well, what are you doing to reduce your stress levels? And in most cases, people don't know how stressed out they are because it becomes normal, it becomes natural. So let me know in the comments if there's anything that you do to help reduce stress. But the problem is that it becomes so normal that it's not natural, and we live a very challenging, like many people don't sleep very well. They don't sleep throughout the night. And here's the funny thing is that when we talk to people and say, well, you should probably have, like, it really depends on, like, you have to get a deep sleep. If you're sleeping, let's say you're in bed for 10 hours and you get 4 hours, or you're sleeping like every 2 hours, you're up for a half hour, you're up for 5 minutes, and you're up for, you know, different intervals. You're not getting a deep sleep, an REM sleep. You're not, you're not getting that full night. Maybe you're up flipping through your phone, but you're still like, I'm in bed. I slept for 10 hours, whatever it is. That's not a deep sleep. That's not the sleep that's going to heal and rejuvenate your body and help you reduce stress as well. So if you get 6 hours of solid sleep, that's much better than sleep. I think we've all been there when you're like kind of half awake and you're in and out. Like, many of us are stressed out. We got lots of things on our mind. These things always come up in our lives. Like, that's part of life. It could be your parents, it could be your family, it could be your children, pets I talked about earlier. Whatever it is, we don't always sleep deeply. And so what I'm saying is that if you sleep for 10 hours and you're in and out of sleep, it's much better to get 6 hours. The problem is that most people don't get that deep sleep, that consistent deep sleep for a block of time. So they're like, I only need 4 hours. I function pretty good. And I'm like, when's the last time you slept for 7 hours straight? And then like, blank look. They have no idea. So that's the difference of when I'm talking about sleep. But in most cases, people don't know what it's like to get a really good night's sleep, so they have nothing to compare it to. And it's the same thing with workouts. For example, people, I don't really need to work out that much. And then I say, well, when's the last time you worked out for 3, 4, 5 times in a week for a month? And most people just haven't done that, so they don't know what it's like to feel rejuvenated and energized and motivated and have mental clarity. We got Jen in here. She says, I was in and out of sleep all night. Thanks for sharing that with us, Jen. So what I'm talking about here is, and there's a lot of different factors when it comes to sleep in particular. But um, today I'm focusing on reducing stress in particular, and I'm kind of working my way back. Is that trying to help you understand that first of all, we don't have any way to reduce stress in our body. Like everyone builds up stress, but not everyone releases stress or reduces stress. So there's no function in our body that helps us reduce stress in our lives. And then and then what I was saying is that major issues come up in our life because of stress. Major There's so many problems that we deal with, but I feel like most of that can be related to stress in one way or another. But then, I mean, you can take that out of context. But I mean, it doesn't matter how much stress level you have if you have a really like sedentary lifestyle and you don't eat very well, if you eat fast food and you're not moving and you hang out in a negative environment, like it doesn't really matter how high your stress levels is. That's just going to contribute to your stress levels and increase it. And that's an important subject, is understanding that food also plays a factor in your stress levels. And you know what the thing is? We got a couple other people. Morning, Allie. And that was Jen already said hi, but a lot of people don't realize that food also increases your stress levels. So if we are stressed out to begin with, and then we're putting stressful types of food in our body that put more stress on, we're only increasing our stress levels. And then sometimes you could look at nicotine, caffeine, alcohol, tobacco, refined sugar. Those increase our stress levels. And one of the biggest issues here is that if you want to talk about, like, we don't specialize in weight loss. In fact, as soon as someone comes to me and says, I want to lose weight, I say, we don't do, uh, we don't do weight loss. So, but everyone wants to lose weight or drop inches or feel better about their waist size. And the thing is, when you're stressed out, you increase your cortisol levels. And when you increase your cortisol levels, your body changes its function. And it's not in I think it's more of almost in a fight or flight mode. So you're constantly in that mode. So your body is just hanging on. It's not functioning properly. It's just think of everything like all tight and restricted, and you're not easy and natural and flowing. So your body isn't able to reduce body fat. You're not able to lose weight. You're not able to drop inches because you're so stressed out, because our cortisol levels are so high. So that's another important factor. So you could say some people that are like, morning, Dorothy. Dorothy says I'm late. Run a little bit behind, Dorothy. That's okay. Thank you for joining us. So here's an issue, is that a lot of people say, well, I've been eating really well. So let's just say, for example, we have our sugar detox that we've done in the past. We're going to do another one here coming up very soon. So we have our sugar detox that's 10 days. Let's just say, for example, 10-day crash course on how to live a healthy lifestyle, not how to drop weight in 10 days. That's not what we do, even though some people have lost weight. But then you have someone, maybe they join our fitness family after that, and they're with us for 2 to 3 months, and they feel like they've been doing better with food, they've been exercising regularly, but their stress levels are through the roof. Well, your body is basically, it's in a battle, it's in a war. So your body is like, I'm feeling good, I'm trying to drop some inches, I'm eating better, I'm working out, but your stress levels are so high, so it's kind of like going back and forth. It's like, I'm eating well, so you're like, oh, I'm eating well, maybe I can drop some inches, and then your stress goes up. So those inches, they're coming back, and you're like, oh, I'm dropping a few pounds, I'm feeling good, and your stress level's high, cortisol levels are up, and you're like, no, your body's like, no, sorry, too stressed out to drop inches. So it's a constant battle, and I think we've all been there with our minds of like, should I do that? Like indecisions, right? Should I do that? Should I do this? That's what your body is like. Your body is like, I don't really know what you want from me. Are we in a fight or flight mode? Are we preserving? Are we trying to hold on to everything we have? It's like we were hunters and gatherers, right? We when we originated, you move from one place to another. I think like nomads, for example. I really feel like that's like on a deeper level. I think that's why we have a great day, Stephanie. I think that's why so many people like to travel, is because I don't feel like we were meant to be in one place for our entire lives. And don't get me wrong, if someone wants to be, some people are like, I don't want to travel. I don't want to go see the world. I don't want to go on vacation. I'm happy here doing my thing, which is perfectly fine. But I think the good majority of people, they want to experience, or they want to get away, or they want to travel. And when they don't, they feel cooped up. And I feel like we were meant to travel, and we were meant to go and see new lands and new sights and new visions. But that comes back to when you're looking at how stressed out our body is and how our body is functioning. Our body was meant to function stress free, but if you're in this, if you're constantly in that stressed out fight or flight mode, just like our bodies weren't meant for that. Like our bodies were meant to travel and move and hunt, and that's why we have that, like that's why we have those feelings. Like I'm not exactly sure what they're called. That's why we have those reactions in our body of like fight or flight, because we used to hunt, and if there were, and it protected our body. So if there was an opportunity where you had to fight for your food, or you had to fight an animal, you were to protect yourself from surviving, you would either fight, which would increase your stress levels, everything's going crazy and vibrating, or you would flight, you would run. And so when you're in that mode, everything is completely stressed out. You're basically just in survival mode. Your body's not like, oh, maybe I should burn some body fat today. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here so I can survive. And then, so just think, it's kind of funny, that's why I'm laughing, but so think about that. Like right now, we of course we live in a different world. We don't hunt. Most people don't hunt, and most of the time you're not in fear of your life to be attacked by another tribe, or by unless you run a business, by another tribe, or by wild animals, right? So your body isn't used to being in that stage. It doesn't need to be in that stage. But now that we're like stressed out from work and from family and for finances, our body's like constantly stressed out, and we don't, so we don't function properly. That's why we don't sleep. That's why we're not able to burn body fat. That's why we have mind fog. So that was a fun little explanation. Let me know. Thank you so much for all the tags, Dorothy. I did say at the beginning, if you tag anyone at the top of the hour, I was going to give away a 200-gram bag of flakes. So that's still up for grabs for a couple more minutes. Dorothy says, I definitely don't do well in one spot for a long period of time. Yeah, Dorothy's one of those people as well. I think that needs to travel, and everyone's a bit different. But I feel like even if it depends. Like some people like to go to the other side of the world. Some people like to go to a different town. When you go for like a weekend drive, it happens in the country. I grew up in the city. You didn't really go for a weekend drive in the country very often. But when you live in a small town, you get that like small town. Well, I did. I don't know. And well, Dorothy grew up in a small town too, though. So do you get that like claustrophobia, Dorothy, of like, this town is very small, and then you have like small town gossip that you don't have in a big city? And you're like, what is happening? You know what? When I moved to Olds, that was one of the most challenging things that I dealt with, is this small town gossip, and like cliquey, or like you hang out with these people, or all these people know each other, and then they don't hang out with those other people. And I'm like, of course, yeah, that happens in high school, but like as an adult, just, or like so and so said this, and it's like, it's so different. And I don't mean to. I really enjoy Olds. It was it's a good place to be. It's just very different from where I grew up to, like I grew up in Calgary. It's a big city, and it's completely different compared to a small town. But there's definitely benefits of living in a small town as well. It was just really hard for me to be in Olds when I first got there, and people are all like talking about you or whispering about you, and then you hear about these things years later, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have nothing else to talk about. Excuse me. Let's see what Jen says. Jen says, I need to move around all the time. I can't even leave Kelowna right now because of my fiance work has restrictions on for. I'm going crazy. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely challenging, Jen. I am with you 100%. So, but anyways, that was just an example. That was just an example of what I was talking about. Travel is another thing or another topic that we could talk about, but it's I think it's important to understand like where we came from and why we do the things that we do, and understanding that like we weren't meant to be cooped up in one place. I don't think so. I don't feel that way. But I also feel that we don't our bodies weren't meant to be in constant continual stress, which they are. So we have to do things to reduce our stress levels. And that's based around action. And the most challenging part is that when we're stressed out, we don't take action. When we're stressed out, we go into like we curl up in a ball, depending on what level of stress we're at, but we curl up in a ball and we don't actually do things. Sorry, I just got a comment there. We don't actually do things to reduce the stress in our life. And you know what's interesting is that I've been hosting Exploring Mind and Body. Some of you might know that that's my nationally syndicated radio show. It's all over Canada, it's into North America, Europe, Philippines. And that's on radio, but it's also a podcast, so you can find it on any podcasting platform. And in most cases, if I ask an expert, I've done over 500 shows. I've been doing this, like I said, for a long time. And in most cases, when I ask an expert how they reduce their stress level or how they, or sorry, well, let me take a step back. I asked them what's one of the most beneficial things that they. I was gonna go right into breathing. Shh, spoiler alert. I asked them what are some of the most benefit. What's one of the most beneficial things to improve their client or customer's health, and that's to reduce stress. That's the number one thing that they recommend is finding ways to reduce stress, and then how to do that is breathing, which I kind of let the cat out of the bag there. But so that's the number one thing that I recommend. And like when we're upset, stressed, anxious, we start breathing short. Like we probably don't notice it, but we have really short breaths, and we're all tight and angry, and we got stress in our shoulders. And I think that a lot of that goes to your lower back as well, because our body's all connected. But if we don't learn to manage our breathing, then it makes it very difficult for us to reduce stress levels. So breathing, it doesn't have to be like I suggest meditation. I meditate every day. But if that's not for you, then it could be prayer, for example. It could be quiet time. It could be just simple breath work. Like I think most people have heard that if you have, people that have anger management problems, they have to like before you react, you take some deep breaths. But I think in many cases, a lot of people don't think before they react. It's just reaction. So instead of like you get an argument, or if you have something that comes up and you're kind of upset about it, instead of breathing, thinking about it, reducing your stress levels, people just are on attack mode. They're just like, like, you did this to me, you did that to me, instead of maybe we should think about this. And I think it's super important to think before you react and consider what you say before you say it, because words definitely play an impact in any type of relationship. So breathing is number one. It's always at the top of the list. Of course, exercise to reduce stress levels, it's got to be there. Breathing goes along with exercise. It's really difficult to exercise and not breathe. So while you're exercising, you actually breathe more often. So they go hand in hand. So number one, number two, or number two, number one. You can't really do one without the other. So reducing stress through exercise. Unfortunately, you look at the holidays, for example, or like around Christmas is the most stressful time of year. Finances, family, gifts. That's when people exercise the least amount. So that is something definitely worth mentioning or noting, is that you have to get out, you have to get moving, especially when you're stressed out. But avoiding foods, excuse me, just give me 1 second here. Avoiding foods that cause stress. I talked about that earlier. That's important. Avoiding stressful situations, stressful people. Like we have to create space, and that's so difficult for a lot of people to understand, but you have to create space between those people that cause stress in your life. Those people that bring you down, negative, toxic, don't really have much positive to say. You need to create space, because many times we're stacked up with all these negative people in our lives, and there's no room for positivity to come in. So if you are able to create just a little bit of space between yourself and negativity, then you allow more positive to come in. And then the more positive that comes in, the further away you can separate yourself from negativity, which will help reduce stress. It's really difficult in the workplace. A lot of people are stressed out in the workplace. Could be a boss, manager, coworker, whatever it is. And that takes more time and effort, but especially if it's a boss. If it's a coworker, you can probably talk to your boss and say, hey, this isn't working out. Could I get some separation? But if it's a boss, you kind of got to find a new job. So which is, again, definitely more challenging. But there's definitely action steps that you can take. You can take action steps. You can make a difference in your life. You can reduce stress. And it's important to understand it is possible, but we have to take these action steps. I feel like food is so important when it comes to reducing stress in our lives. And remember, earlier I talked about inflammation, reducing stress, feeling better about ourselves. Like usually when we have a good meal, like I had a nice stir fry yesterday. I had a beautiful stir fry, all kinds of different color. It was green, it was crunchy, it was tasty. And I felt good after. Like my body was like, yes, thank you. And I felt good mentally, emotionally, physically. And then compare that to, like, I used to talk about we used to eat blizzards and I would get like belly aches. Or even now, I still enjoy like a big bowl of pasta, but now I've reduced that. And there's nothing wrong with it. Fine, clean ingredients. I love capers, black and green olives, hot peppers. Mwah. But I used to have a big bowl of it and I would just eat it up. And I never felt good after it. I was always like, afterwards, I was like, that's a completely different feeling between having like a quinoa salad or in that really nice stir fry, and then you have a big bowl of pasta. Nothing wrong with pasta. I'm just saying you feel different. So understand that that's putting different stress levels on your body. If you're eating cleaner foods, if you're eating healthier foods, lighter foods, foods that are easier to burn off, that's a completely different feeling. And it does different things to you internally, physically, mentally, emotionally. So give that a try, especially if you're stressed out. Again, the problem is when we're stressed out, we go to those fatty foods. We go to sugar, we go to the pantry, we hit the chips and the pop, we sit there in the fetal position, which only digs our hole deeper. So, and don't get me wrong, I get stressed out too, but when I'm stressed out, I try to go do something. Like I try to go for a bike ride or for a run. A run's a good one for me when I'm stressed out. I don't really enjoy running that much. I do run once or twice a week to get fresh air, to get outside, to get active, for health benefits. But when I'm stressed out, I'll go and run because that feels like I can like get my stress out. But you have to find different ways. I was doing some interviews in the past, and people like recommended like yelling into a pillow. I guess not really my thing, but that might work for you. Or throwing something into I don't know what there's another lady was saying something like throwing something like ice cubes at a brick wall or something. Well, everyone has their like something different, and every expert says something a bit different as well. But for me, it's got to be breathing, it's got to be exercise, it's getting moving, getting active, the food that we're putting in our body, and then of course our environment. This is what we talk about on a regular basis. Our fitness family is super supportive, super happy. That's why we love them so much. That's why we've created that group of positivity. And when we have a problem, we can go there. We can go to our group and we can vent and we can ask for advice and we can ask for help. Morning, Donna. Morning, Gloria. So it's important to have those people in your lives or those places that you can go to reduce some stress. The only problem is you have to understand to not use them as a crutch. I feel like sometimes if we get into like complaining mode, then you're always complaining, and it gets into a habit of always complaining. You never want to like just dump all your problems on somebody else. You want to have a mutual relationship. Listen once in a while, like How many times you sit across from someone and all they do is talk the whole time? And you're like, oh, you're such a good listener, blah 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 blah. Like, oh, I wanted to talk. I know I'm a good listener, but I wanted to talk too. Sometimes you sit in a meeting, and I'd imagine afterwards, sometimes people would be like, oh, I wanted to talk, but so and so, they dominated the conversation so much, all I did was talk the whole time. So it should be a pleasant relationship where there's give and take. So consider that next time you have an issue and you're talking to someone about, ask them how they're doing. Ask them if there's something that you can do to help them out instead of always, I would say taking, but always giving your stress. You like sometimes we put stress on other people, and that's a challenge. Like, you don't want to be a person that's always dumping your stress on someone else. You want to be able to take some of their stress off their shoulders too, and hopefully you can not carry that on yourself. But I am gonna wrap things up here. I do appreciate you guys coming in. Donna says I can't stay long. I'll watch the replay though. I have an exam this. Well, good luck on your exam, Donna. We hope. What kind of exam are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I never really enjoyed exams, to be honest with you. I was one of those people that never examined very well in school. Happy school is over. I don't ever plan on going back to school for anything. School was tough for me. It's really tough, but I'm happy to learn. I learn every day. I read every day. I learn every day. But I know some people enjoy school or have to go to school. Just not for me. But we wish you all the best, Donna, with your health and a life coach. Well, awesome. That's fantastic. Good for you, Donna. Let me know if we can help. Dorothy says, I don't think anyone enjoys exams. Well, they probably don't enjoy them. But I know some people perform better for exams. I just feel like my brain never understood like, what are you asking me? I never really understood the questions. Sometimes, like, you have the conversation, you have these questions, and the thing about exams is, like, I feel like the goal of the exam is so you get the question wrong. They're like trying to trick you. I don't know. It's probably a long conversation, but I'm sure everyone has their different perspectives. But I feel like exams, like, their goal is to try to trick you so they get the answer wrong. Why wouldn't they help you get the answer right? I don't know. It just makes sense to me. But I never did exam. But we'd have the conversation. Like, I had a conversation in class before I understood the concept. I feel like I got the answer right. And then you go through the answers, and they explain why your answer was wrong. And I was like, well, that's what I meant. Like, I understood the conversation, but when they asked the question like this, I never got it right. Very, very seldomly did I get the answer right. Well, I'm nervous, but I can do it. Yes, you can, Donna. We believe in you. Let us know how that goes. We would love to hear how it goes. I feel like am I starting the shows too early? Today I started the show at 7:30. Or yes, what time is it? It's almost 8:15. It's 7:30 Mountain Time. And I usually start at 7:15. But I was like, oh, let's go a little bit later because we get more people in at the bottom of the hour. But now it's 8:15 Mountain Time. 7:15 Pacific Time, and it feels like there's more people. I don't know. I can never tell. I'm going to wrap things up here, though. I do appreciate you guys coming in. Thanks for joining. We got Linda jumped in here. Shelly jumped in here. And then I don't know what that means, but thanks for watching. Whatever that symbol is. Celebrate the small victories. That's right, Don. It's super important to celebrate small victories. Let us know how it goes. We're definitely interested, and we're standing behind you. We wish you all the best. And whatever positive testing energy I can give you. Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I'll tell you real quick. Like, during crunch time, I was really good at, like, finishing papers. No problem. I could write. I'm a very good writer. No problem writing. Always did well with writing. Like, multiple choice, math, science, like chemistry stuff, not very good at all. But during crunch times or high stress situations in sports, always did my best. I was always stood out in the most pressure situations. So don't really have any problem with pressure situation when it comes to testing. But for like, when you have to sit down and write a test, I was horrible. I couldn't figure it out. When you put me on the field in a stressful situation, I was good. All right, Donna, have a good day too. Thanks everyone for joining me. Thank you for whoever's coming in and out and for conversations. I love English. Well, that's wonderful. And I will catch you. All the best in reducing your stress. If you have any stress questions, let us know. We actually do have a sugar detox coming up very soon. And if you want to get on that short list, let us know. We have a list that we've slowly putting together. When we have more information, we're sending that out to those people first. So the first people on the list will get priority to get into our private exclusive group. Sugar detox coming up soon to help reduce stress on your mind and body. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thanks again for joining me. I gotta find that.